Hello, so this week's topic is why does it seem that there are more people who are assigned female at birth who identify as genderqueer than people who were assigned male at birth? And that is a very interesting question. First of all, let me say that JT and Stefan's videos were awesome. This is a good week. I like this week. And Sam and I were talking about it on Tuesday night, and this is a really hard question, and I was thinking about it more after I left, and I think part of the reason that I think this is a hard question is that I have hypotheses, but, I mean, I'm not backing them up with any sort of research, which is kind of what I do, so it bothers me a slight bit. But now that I've got that disclaimer out there, these are just initial thoughts. And I actually took a page out of Sam's book, and I wrote notes. Not only did I write notes, I wrote notes on an index card. They're really not as copious. I probably have like 25 words, but, you know, that's how I roll. So let's get into the question. So, the first thing that I thought of was that maybe the difference isn't the number of individuals who identify as genderqueer, but that the languages and behavior are different. So, for instance, maybe there are people who are male assigned at birth who actually do have the same sort of mantra that many of us attach to being genderqueer. I know, in the first week we talked about how everybody's definition is different. But maybe there are male-assigned people, I'm sure there are, who kind of feel like they don't fit into any gender box, or they want to freely express their gender. However, maybe they go about it a different way, or maybe they don't label it. And labeling is key, especially, I think, in the queer community. Like, we tend to label ourselves a lot, so maybe that's it. Just a thought. What else did I have to say? Oh yeah, so I think that this is what Stefan was talking about yesterday, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit again, because it's so obvious, and it just makes sense to me. So, I think that female-bodied people probably have a little bit more freedom when it comes to being genderqueer. Meaning that, even if you just think about, like, when these people are children, like, there's a model for a tomboy. At least where I live, that is perfectly acceptable for a child to be. However, being a sissy boy, or something to that effect, is so not okay, and you will get tormented for that. And little boys can definitely not wear girls' clothes. That just doesn't fly. They can, but unless they have that extreme desire to do so, it's probably not going to happen. We also have, I think that people assigned female at birth also have more of a history with genderqueerness, or at least, it's really hard to generalize, but we have models, meaning that we have the feminist movement, which was all about women wearing what were typically men's clothes. When my mom was younger, she wasn't allowed to wear pants to school because pants were men's clothes. Whereas now, women wear pants all the time, and women are allowed to wear men's pants as well. There is a stigma attached to it. Once you leave that tomboy state, there's more of a stigma attached to it. However, it's much more acceptable than someone assigned male wearing heels, which could probably get them hurt more easily. And also, I mean, I know this again is just a theory of mine, but I know that many of us on the channel don't identify as lesbians. I do. However, I think that maybe a couple generations ago, or a generation ago, more people would have, because I really think that, well, the idea of a butch lesbian is rather defined now. I think that maybe before it wasn't as defined. That doesn't make sense. Let me think about that. Okay, so I just think that the fact that butch lesbians existed before us means that it kind of opened the door for people assigned female at birth to play with gender. And that is, I feel extremely lucky to have that history behind me. Even though I don't identify as butch, I just... God, what am I trying to say? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, I just feel extremely lucky to have that history behind me of people assigned female at birth identifying as more masculine and presenting that way. Whereas I think that people assigned female at birth, they do have that, but they don't have it as much. And I was thinking about this, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen the movie, I believe it's called Screaming Queens, although I've watched a lot of queer movies, so maybe that's not it. But basically it's about the history of San Francisco transgender women. And it's very interesting because it follows the lives of these women before transition was an option and after transition was an option. And it almost seems to me that before transition was an option, these women had a more sort of genderqueer identity, at least some of them, because they didn't have the option of identifying as a woman, or they didn't feel that it wasn't a category yet. Then medicalization came along, and suddenly they were allowed to choose the position of female, and or maybe they felt that way the whole time but didn't know how to express it. And I think all of them, at least in the movie, did do that. And maybe, I mean, I don't know why that is. Probably because they were leading pretty horrible lives where the only thing that they could do was either be a female impersonator if they were white and very pretty, or they could be prostitutes. So that's just no good. So I guess the point is, God, I'm so starting this whole video over. No, because I don't have time. Okay. I wasn't supposed to work today and now I am. That's why I don't have time. Anywho. Grr. So maybe, like I said in the beginning, did I say this? Okay, so what I see here is that there's an accessibility issue. As I was talking about, it's more acceptable for someone born female to live in between than someone born male. So I personally feel the option of being able to live my life as genderqueer and present as genderqueer, whereas for others, I think maybe people born male who don't transition and those who do identify with being genderqueer without using that language. However, they don't really, they feel the need to choose a side. So they either stay in semi-masculine dress and learn to control what most people call as flamboyant behavior, unless they are in the correct company, or they transition. This is a sweeping generalization, and I'm not saying that all people who transition identify as genderqueer. I'm saying the opposite, that many people who identify as genderqueer also transition, which is totally valid. So yeah, I guess that's what I have to say for today. I hope this video makes sense, because I usually try and keep them shorter, which means that I've usually recorded it like 2 times beforehand. However, I got called into work, and yeah. So have a great day. I hope you're not working, because I am, and I will talk to you later. Bye.